What's going on, guys? My name is Christopher and welcome to It's Complicated. It is a show where I talk about and showcase mostly mechanical wristwatches. Today we're going to be talking about an Invicta Pro Diver, but this time the two-tone Pro Diver. That's right, another Invicta. Here we go. Let's check out the Invicta Pro Diver 89280B. Comes with a hang tag, couple water absorbent packs in there. Let's get it off of this. Talk about the box briefly. The box is pretty nice that this watch comes in. Almost feels like a fake leather kind of style to it, but it's nice and sturdy. Pretty nice box. Now, this watch is an homage to the Rolex Submariner. A lot of companies make an homage watch to the Submariner at a cheaper price because, let's face it, a lot of people can't afford a Submariner. We're going to get into the price of this watch here in a bit, but honestly, for what I paid for this watch, it's a solid watch. I think the Pro Diver is one of the best watches that Invicta offers. I've showcased the all stainless version of this watch before, and it was a great watch for the price as well. Now, there are some things I don't like about this watch, but again, for the price, they're pretty minor, especially compared to the price of a Rolex Submariner. Considering I just bought this watch, I'm going to say it was made in 2020, although to my knowledge, there isn't anything different about the 2020 version and the past few years, if not 10 years, of Invicta's Pro Diver. Let's touch on the price here. The price is one of those things Invicta pulls that many people dislike about Invicta. The price they claim is $199, but I scooped this watch up on Amazon for 61 bucks. So their MSRP is more than 3 times what I paid for this watch. And it's always going to be like that with Invicta. Matter of fact, don't ever pay MSRP for anything that Invicta offers. You will always be able to find a cheaper deal for an Invicta. Let's check out the size from here to here. You're going 40 millimeters, great size for a watch, and 48 millimeter lug to lug, also great. The movement in this watch is a Seiko NH35A, very nice inside a stainless watch, especially for 61 bucks. And check it out, it's keeping very good time with that Seiko movement inside. And you can't really say anything bad about this two-tone Pro Diver as far as timekeeping is concerned. The Pro Diver is 200-meter water resistant at 660 feet. At least Invicta claims it is. There have been a few videos on YouTube showing that it's not very water resistant, regardless what they put on the dial, regardless what they say. And a few years ago, there was even a class action lawsuit against Invicta of how these Pro Divers are not as water resistant as Invicta claims. Let's check out the case here. Pretty nice case. Nice polish on the side of the case there, nice brushing here. One thing that is pretty obnoxious is this giant Invicta carving on the left side of the case there. It's just completely unnecessary. But hey, for 61 bucks, again, you can't really complain that much. Now, looking at the bezel looks good. The gold matches the bracelet. The bezel insert is aluminum, nothing wrong with that. You're not gonna be able to line up the pip here with the 12 o'clock marker. There's just too much give, and even when you lock it, it just doesn't line up right. But you know what, there are watches that sell for more money than this one where that problem exists. So again, for 61 bucks, you can't worry about it. One thing I really dislike is when you turn this bezel, it's almost like it's scraping against something. It doesn't want to turn, especially with 2 fingers. It's a lot harder to turn. But again, you're not gonna line that pip up with the 12 o'clock marker. It's just not gonna happen on this watch. When you get an Invicta Pro Diver, you're definitely stuck with a mineral crystal. You're not gonna get a sapphire crystal for 61 bucks, nor should you expect to get a sapphire crystal for 61 bucks. But the Cyclops here does magnify that date window. And there are watches, again, that cost more money and do not magnify with a Cyclops on, or magnify less, especially when you're talking about replicas. Some of those Cyclops just do not work at all for replica Submariners. Let's check out the crown here. Not bad, same nice gold color here. Of course, this isn't real gold, being a $61 watch, but very nice gold color. One thing that is weird about this is when you unscrew this crown, you do get the spring action, and that's fine. The movement does hack being that Seiko movement, but when you go to screw this in, it feels like it's scraping against something. Similar to the bezel, maybe this just needs some lubrication, which I imagine that is. They're probably cutting a lot of costs to sell a watch like this for $61. Let's check out the case back here. I love that this does have a display back. Very nice, so you can see that Seiko movement. One thing I do not like is the Invicta branding all over the rotor. This is not an Invicta movement. I don't think Invicta even makes their own movements. So I don't think there's any reason to put the brand naming all over the movement that they bought from Seiko. So that brings us to the dial and the hands of this watch. And the hands of this watch is probably where I have the most problem. See that second hand just running along there? There does not need to be the big Invicta logo pretty much on the back of that hand. It's already big enough near the 12 o'clock indice. And you see the marker on that second movement. If it's going to be that close to the edge, it needs to sweep evenly, almost exactly over those hour markers, and it doesn't. And because it's up that close to the rehaut, it almost appears like the very end of that second hand is like a nipple. Definitely my least favorite thing about this watch is that second hand. Another odd thing with the dial is it doesn't say Pro Diver anywhere on this dial. That's a little weird. The hour markers are also a little odd. Do you see there in that light? They almost look green where the Lume is, and that doesn't really work for this watch. So you have the two-tone, almost like that purple dial color. It's not very blue like the Rolex it is an homage to, but the green hour markers are very, very ugly on this watch. The last thing I want to mention about this dial that I don't like is the Invicta logo. It almost looks blurry. And no, that's not my camera. It just looks blurry. It's always going to look blurry. It's just not crisp like I feel like a company's logo should be. Let's check out the lume on this watch. Definitely not great. And I charged these lumes up for quite a while and they just don't have a lot of brightness. Look at the bracelet on this watch though. It's pretty nice, especially again for 61 bucks. I say it feels more expensive than what you pay for it. And on the back side of the bracelet, it does have arrows to tell you which side those pins need to come out for sizing the bracelet. And another thing with this bracelet that is nice is that gold coloring on the metal. It's perfect gold coloring. Matter of fact, check out the Rolex Submariner two-tone. I mean, that coloring is pretty darn close, if not perfect, to what this watch is, for what this watch is trying to be. The clasp on this watch is great, buckles very sturdily. Nice click there. This folds over nice, and it's not going to go anywhere once it is on your wrist. And there's a great wrist shot of the watch. Looks pretty good on the wrist. Definitely doesn't look bad, especially for $61. There's the real Rolex Submariner next to this Invicta. Really, those hour markers look very green, and the coloring on the dial is all wrong. But everything else looks pretty good, especially considering this is $61. That's amazing for $61, especially with that Seiko movement. Overall, 61 bucks. Nice one. That Pro Diver is a fantastic buy for 61 bucks. I think it would be a perfect present for a teenager. It'd be a perfect present to try to get somebody into that mechanical watch hobby, but you can never turn around and say that the Pro Diver is just like a Rolex Submariner. Sorry. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of It's Complicated. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Click the like button if you did enjoy the video. You know what? And if you hated the video, give me a dislike while you're at it as well. And I'll see you next time on another episode of It's Complicated.